So, ladies and gentlemen, fanboys and girls, nerds, bees, and otaku, welcome back and welcome home.
Hello there, Applebites. This is your Applebite Written Writ Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, The Written Writ. And we have a plethora of people hanging out, getting ready to geek out, have some fun, and maybe get a little spooky. We'll see. You got yourselves John, Mike, Rick, and of course, Dennis Knight.
What up?
Yes, folks, we are ready to rock. You know what, Rick? Why don't you start off by telling the people who you are, what you do, all the good stuff. Give them the spiel. Go for it.
Hello there. My name's Rick Schreck. I'm owner of House of 1,000 Tattoos here in Middlesex Borough, New Jersey. I've been tattooing for 30 years. I've collected Ouija boards since the early 90s and making them since the early 2000s. I made the largest Ouija board in the world, although some people will beg to differ with you because I'm not in the Guinness book for it, but I can explain that later. That's about it for me. That's really it.
That sounds like a lot. I don't think that's really.
Well, there's a little more. I'm vice president of Talking Board Historical Society, and me and John will probably talk about that a bunch. But we're a 501c3 nonprofit that we deal with the preservation of everything Ouija, people, places, and things. We deal with anytime you see Ouija really in the media, somebody from TBHS is behind that. So it's a real honor to be a part of that too.
Well, that's interesting. How does that work out? You know, do they just come to you automatically, or
well,
do you
Robert Murch, the president, he's been doing it for so long that everybody knows he's the go-to guy. And a lot of times he'll be contacted and things will filter their way down to the rest of the members. But John is really building a heck of a name for himself out there in Salem. He's becoming a go-to guy as well. So I hear his name all the time.
So, John, why don't you follow that up and tell the people all the way who you are, all the good stuff. Give them the spiel. Go for it.
Yeah. So, like Rick mentioned, we're both members of the Talking Board Historical Society, registered nonprofit. We research, preserve, celebrate the history of these boards. I became interested in Ouija boards in the late 90s after I inherited my grandmother's board. And through collecting, meeting Rick and Murch and some other collectors, eventually I was able to open a museum 5 years ago in Salem, the Salem Witchboard Museum. It was the world's only Ouija museum until about 5 months ago when I opened a second location in Baltimore. But yeah, all I do every day is talk about Ouija boards. So quite a passion and love of mine.
Ouija boards have always been popular. You know, they were more secretive popular before. Now I feel like it's way out there in the open, and a lot of people are just like jumping into it. You know, have you guys seen this kind of growth as well?
I mean, for me, in the last 6 months, there's probably been about 6 different pretty mainstream boards that have come out. There's a brand new Salem edition board. There's Wednesday, of course. The Exorcist finally got their own version. Chucky, Child's Play 2 has a board from Trick or Treat Studios. So in mainstream pop culture, I mean, certainly the last 6 months especially, but I think, we've always kind of seen it popular, but then certain times where it kind of spikes.
Do you agree, Rick?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. But I think what you see is a lot of Johnny Come Latelys cashing in too.
Oh,
You know,
definitely.
like you know, two of my favorite bands in the world, Morbid Angel and Deicide, both have Ouija boards now through Earache Records, John. Right?
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they're putting everything on Ouija boards now.
Yeah, it's like everybody has a branded. You're right. Everybody has a branded Ouija board. Everybody has a special Ouija board. People that you wouldn't expect to have Ouija boards have Ouija boards, and I'm sitting there going, "What?" And it always makes me go back to that pink Ouija board because I feel like that was the pinnacle. I was like, "Yes, get the Ouija board for your girls," and I'm like, "Who the?" You know,
the pink ones I had a lot of. I had a lot of those because when Toys R Us was liquidating them, Robert Merch had told me about it. He goes, they're all going on clearance, so buy as many as you can. And I went to my local Toys R Us and I bought every one of them that was on the shelf. They were selling them for $7 a piece. And I had them sitting around for the longest time. Nobody wanted them. Nobody cared. I could have tried to sell them. Nobody wanted to buy them. So as we were getting older, my friends started having children. Everybody had a daughter. That was their gift. They got a brand new pink for their kid. Until I gave them all away. And now I see that things are going for $400, $500 online. I wish I had them all back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it is, isn't it? You know, you're sitting there, you go, you don't think about it. We were just talking about that in the green room. Sometimes what you think is as a collectible, you keep it and you're there going to sell it, and then they're like, no, that doesn't cost that much. And then something stupid you had that you probably got rid of, they're like, oh yeah, that's worth a lot of money.
Ralph, if I could just jump in for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
The reason I was here is I wanted to tell about my experiences with Ouija boards and Toys R Us. Back in the late 90s and then in the early 2000s, I worked for Toys R Us. I was in the stores for 13 months, and then I was in the main office for several years. And Ouija boards were hands down the most complained about item in the stores. Now, there would be periods where we would get a lot of complaints about a specific Barbie or a specific G.I. Joe because they were, people thought they were violent. But day in, day out, and this is in the early days of the internet, so people were handwriting us letters and typing them.
Right.
There would be a stack of letters about Ouija boards. And it was two camps. The first camp was, you should not be selling this. You're going to, children should not be summoning the devil. And then the other camp was people being concerned about how we were treating them. They were like, you shouldn't really have them next to the games for small children. Maybe you should keep them more by the jigsaw puzzles because then there won't be contamination. Like it's raw chicken in a kitchen. And, And one of my favorite letters, and I wish that I could have kept it. I had a photocopy for a long time, but I would have liked the actual letter, was someone had seen one fall off a shelf in a store, and they wanted to know what the procedure was for containing the evil. So it wouldn't get out of the box. Like what PPE do you put on?
Was that just me or everybody go out?
Yeah.
It was just you.
Well,
but don't worry, you're back now.
Me? You're probably listening to me.
What PPE do you put on to prevent the evil from spreading?
That's my tech person.
Hey.
Yeah, as long as it stays.
And what was interesting about the Ouija board sales is that if you looked at a map of the United States, because Toys R Us had stores in all 50 states, California sold a ton. New York and New Jersey sold a ton. The middle of the country, virtually nothing. I mean, they would have sales, but it would be incredibly low. It was the East Coast and the West Coast, and that was it. Nobody else bought them, sold them. I guess they were getting them from somewhere else. But what's weird is, in my mind, everybody has one or everybody's parents has one. It's one of those things that in the basement on the shelf, next to the Game of Life with all the missing pieces and the Monopoly that no longer has the right amount of money, there's a Ouija board.
See, it's so funny that you
That's
say
true.
that because you figure, with the amount of Ouija boards out there, because especially if you watch the horror shows and the true ghost stories, they goes, and then the Ouija board was there, and I'm like, okay, who's buying the Ouija board?
Right.
Somebody's buying the Ouija board.
But what I think is especially interesting, and I wanted to put it to you two experts here.
Ooh.
I haven't seen a Ouija commercial since the 80s. Do they still actually have commercials, or are people just buying them off word of mouth at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's no commercials, but in hindsight, how many Monopoly commercials have you seen? There's just not commercials for a lot of games to begin with, but certainly not Ouija boards.
Yeah, now everything has to be from one of these things. You hear Monopoly commercials, but it's Monopoly Go.
Yeah.
It's ready for somebody to go, Ouija board go.
You probably see that a lot more around Christmas when they start pushing everything.
Right.
It's not a mainstream commercial, but a couple years ago, a board called the Holy Spirit board came out. It's basically a way to speak to Jesus Christ directly.
Oh yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah, the company did make a commercial for it. It's on YouTube, and it's pretty hysterical because Jesus actually tries to sell you the Ouija board, and he's like, "Jesus here, are you still using a regular Ouija board like an effing nerd?" And he starts breaking him over his knee and whatnot. So, pretty good satire, but that's about the best I can think of for a commercial in recent years.
I did see that on TikTok. Somebody sent me that video. They're like, "Hey Ralph, wait till you see this." And
Clever idea. I wish I thought of it.
I know.
And then the other interesting Ouija toy-related thing is the big, or what used to be the big convention every year was Toy Fair, and in New York City at the Javits Center. And if you wanted to see the Ouija boards, and Rick has experienced this firsthand because I snuck him in one year, they won't just let you see it. You have to go in a secret back room where it's by itself. But Rick, do you want to tell them about your experience going through security to get to see the official Ouija?
I don't remember much from the Toy Fair about Ouija board stuff. It was a great thing, but I don't remember seeing Ouija boards that year. I don't remember that one.
Post-hypnotic suggestion. They wiped your memory.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
He knows.
Like, you saw it. Now we need to wipe it.
Well, I was so in shock because I'm walking around and Mike goes, "Oh yeah, you guys want to meet this guy Rick here? He's an influencer." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So all these people thought I was somebody special, but I was
are somebody special.
Just a dipshit that does tattoos. Curse word. First one broke it.
And then Mr. Kozik, how many people come to your establishment and are warning you about the dangers of so many boards in the same place?
Surprisingly, I'm in Salem and I'm in somewhat of a bubble. I don't really get too much of that, surprisingly. I do, however, going back to, a Ouija board being in every house, a very common story that I hear from people is they found a Ouija board in their house and they have no idea how it even got there. So a lot of people start the story with that. But yeah, no. Surprisingly, I've only had a handful of people ever come in and really kind of either be super afraid or nervous to come in the room or criticize it in that way. I luck out because you pay an admission to come to the museum. And so you're either, super into it or curious, or you do think you're going into a haunted house or something and you're going to get scared by something. But I don't get a lot of negativity, thankfully.
Oh, that's excellent. Rick, I know you had a lot of people commenting that a giant Ouija board would unleash a giant demon.
Yeah. I got a lot of love on YouTube. If you just Google Ouijazilla or world's largest Ouija board, there's at least, last count, 70 people, different religious people, saying I opened a gateway to hell, and then I'm the reason why COVID came right after that, because it was 2 months before COVID. And next thing you know, I started getting people writing me saying, "You got to burn that board. Look what's happening to the world." I'm like, come on, man. We got bigger things to worry about than plywood with the alphabet right now, You guys were talking about what John was talking about, people saying they found a board in their basement. Now, that's always been like the whole story we always hear until I witnessed it firsthand right down the street here. I was on my way to the tattoo shop, and there was an estate sale down the street. And I went in there, and I always go straight to the basement. And the reason I always do is because that's where the people that live there always hide all their stuff.
Yep.
So I'm tall. I can go in the basement and look underneath the floorboards and see where people hid stuff. It's always in the basement. And, you can find silver dollars down there. You usually find porno. People always hide porno down there. And one day I went down under the stairs, and I go, no, there's no way there's a Ouija board tucked under the steps, and it was broken in half. So it was, John, was it the 70s, the one with the masonite with the sticker on it? It was broken in half, but the sticker was still intact. And I brought it to the guy, and I go, how much for this? And they were like, where the hell did you even find that? And I was like, under the stairs. And they were just like, take it, man.
I want to say the same thing. Just get it out of here.
I really found it. It was so cool.
Oh, that's amazing. But that's a freaking ghost story just waiting to happen.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Mr. Kozik, do you have a lot of people bring in boards that they don't want anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of people who come in and start asking me what they can do with it. And over the years, the Talking Board Historical Society has taken boards that people have had problems with. And so I have some of those on display in the museum. So as people read the stories or hear the stories from me, then they're like, oh, I can do that same thing. And every now and then I come in and there's one sitting at the front door before we've opened. So they've dropped it off in the middle of the night, like an abandoned baby or something. That happens once in a while. And unfortunately with those, I don't get to hear the backstory as to what the problems might have been, if there were any. But yeah, certainly a lot of people want to know how to get rid of a Ouija board. That's one of the most asked questions for sure.
It would be so cool if you had a giant slot that was like insert cursed boards here.
Yeah.
I make it
John's
known.
music.
Yeah.
Okay, John.
No, I make it
Museum
known
opens
that I'll gladly take any donated board whatsoever. So I'm happy to take them.
John's museum opened 1 month before Ouijazilla made the appearance there. So that all happened the same year.
So you're both responsible for COVID.
Yeah.
Well,
we did it.
What's funny is, where Ouijazilla was unveiled is the Salem Common. And up until that point, pre-COVID, it was pretty much governed by the neighbors in around it. And kind of like almost like a homeowners association kind of thing. And as we set it up, there was not one negative comment. People, and that is a pretty well-known place for the neighbors to kind of act like Karens, where they, don't want things. But we only received positive feedback the whole time we set it up. And the neighbors were like, oh, this should stay up longer. To be honest with you, it was a little shocking when the memes came up and videos started appearing online. Because I was like, wow, it was such a positive thing. I just can't imagine why anyone's thinking of it as negative. And then it was. And now, I mean, it's certainly more negative online than it was. But at the time when it came out, there was only positive in Salem.
Yeah. The only problems we have was keeping people off of it. Everybody wanted to walk around on it.
Now, Rick, could you tell us more about Ouijazilla? Because we keep referencing it, but I don't think the viewers fully understand how big this thing is and what it is.
All right. Well, Ouijazilla, behind me is a 6x8 foot Ouija board that I made years ago, and it lights up. You can. I used to hang it on the front of my house for Halloween, and I could punch answers in, so kids can ask questions in my house, and the Ouija board would answer. And Robert Murch, the president of TBHS, one day said to me, what are you doing next? You got to go bigger than that. You might as well make the biggest one in the world. And I said, well, there's this guy that has one. He has the world record for the largest one in the world. He painted a mural of a Ouija board on the roof of a hotel in Pennsylvania. And it's not a Ouija board, and it's not in proportion, because if you look at the planchette, the planchette's not even big enough to fit one of the letters in the hole in the viewfinder. So I go, you know what? I would love to just make the largest one in the world, a real wooden Ouija board, something you could bring from place to place, bring it to haunted locations and whatnot. But I can't afford to make something that big. It's going to cost me a ton of money. So I was tattooing a buddy of mine, and his family, they own a big shipping company, and they build shipping crates and whatnot. And I was telling him about my idea, and he goes, I can give you enough wood to build a house if you needed it. How much do you need? And I did a little calculating, and I go, 99 sheets. And he said, dude, we won't even notice it's gone. So all that wood was donated to us by Trans-American Trucking. Yeah. And all the 2x4s underneath were donated too. There's 300 2x4s under there and 99 sheets of plywood. The stain and the paint itself were donated by Benjamin Moore Paints, which is another guy that I tattoo. They're all my tattoo customers. Just cool dudes.
Wow.
And it took me a year and a half to complete in a 1-car garage behind the tattoo shop. I did it one panel at a time. It was just like painting a giant puzzle, just one piece at a time. It wasn't that hard. It was just very time consuming. Hey, that's me and John at my Ouija hearse. I love that picture. That's the only Ouija hearse, unless somebody else has one. I bought a 1989 Lincoln Town Car hearse, and I drive it every day. It's my everyday car now. The back of it was gutted because the guy that I got it from, this dude Bill, he had speakers and stuff back there, like a big stereo, and I didn't know how to do body work on a car, so I just built a whole wooden thing in the back there with a slide out table, and I said, hell, I'm making the first ever drivable Ouija board.
Nice.
And Ouijazilla is 72 by 44 feet.
Wow.
Which is huge.
Yeah, it's big enough. I want to do a bigger one, but if I'm going to go bigger, I got to go 3 times the size of what I did. So if I really want to do it again and I could find people to donate, I'll do one that's 300 panels.
Wow.
The biggest challenge will be the planchette, because that planchette would end up being, probably be like 40 feet. That's going to be hard to balance on 3 legs.
Now, Rick, when you had come to me when this was still in the planning phase.
Yes.
And, we discussed Ripley's and Guinness Book.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell people about the interesting behind-the-scenes machinations of the world of world records?
Yeah, I'll go as fast as I can on that one. So I originally, look, man, I bet you all of us, as we're little kids, we're always like, man, I wish I could have a world record. What am I do? The most burps per minute? I don't know what I could do, but I want to be in the Guinness for something, And when I had the opportunity to make this Ouija board, I go, now's my chance. I can have a world record. So you go to Guinness has a website. You go to their website and you fill out all the application there. I don't remember the time period, but it's like you wait almost a year and they'll respond to you. Or you can expedite your email and you send them $800 and they'll answer you in 5 days. And I was willing to wait the long ass time to wait because it was going to take me forever to paint it anyway. But I remember talking to the TBHS and I go, guys, I'm going to paint our logo on the bottom of this thing, front and center, and it's going to be a great publicity stunt. Would you want to do something, in conjunction with this? Like we can make it a TBHS event, because then it could be even bigger. And besides that, I love the TBHS so much. I honestly would rather see Talking Board Historical Society made the world. I didn't leave my name there. I wanted us to be known for something, and John was the first one to go, hey, we'll pay the $800. Let's expedite that phone call. We want to hear what they're going to say. So we did. So we paid the money, and first time they didn't show up. So I had to reschedule the call, and I was so excited to get a phone call from them that I was in my hearse and I had GoPro cameras all pointed at me because I was like, wow, this is my moment. I'm doing a world record. So I have all this on tape, which many people don't know. I have all my phone calls on tape. And they told me, okay, you're going to do this record. You got to let us know when and where, and you have to prove it with two different independent people. So I needed contractors, which we have. And we had 2 different people measure it, and then they needed their own businesses to put on their letterhead that they witnessed it. It needs to be in public. It needs to be filmed. It needs to be photographed. And it needs to be beatable. It has to be a beatable record. So I was meeting all those things. But then they hit me with, and you're looking at like $13,000. And so I was like, 13,000 for what? And that's, I guess, what comes along with using their logo, having them there. They believe that's what they're worth. And hey, man, I guess so, because the whole world knows who they are, right?
Right.
So I go back to TBHS and I go, guys, I got to raise 13 grand to make this happen. And that was when we came up with the idea, if you look at the Ouija board, for that outer perimeter where it looks like almost like a Monopoly board. And the original board is the center. The outer perimeter was to raise money to be able to afford to be in records. And that was when I was talking to Mike about where he was working, asked if they want to be a part of it. And I was making all these phone calls, asking people to be a part of it. But do you know how hard it is to ask somebody for quite a bit of money?
Yeah.
And then they go, how big is it going to be? And I go, I can't tell you.
Right.
I could tell you it's going to be big, but I can't tell you because I'm one guy all by myself hand painting this over 1.5 years. If somebody, like say Ozzy Osbourne, wanted to make one, he has enough money to have one made in a week.
Yep.
And if he knew how big mine was going to be, my record could get beaten before I finished.
Right.
You know, so I couldn't tell anybody. So I had this flyer that was released, and it was really funny because it was like heavier than an African forest elephant, which is 6,000 pounds. It could fit 5 full-size semi trucks on there, which they're 72 feet long. All you gotta do is just look up what those things are, and it'll tell you, right? I even paid a cameo appearance for may she rest in peace, Tony Katane, because I loved her in Witchboard, and I wanted her to do a commercial for Ouijazilla. And I wrote to her and I said, can you please say it's large enough to park 5 full-size semi trucks on there? And I have the Patreon video from her, the Patreon cameo video. She says, oh, Rick, you're making a Ouija board large enough for 5 minivans. So I couldn't use it because she said minivans and not semi trucks. But I still have it. So you guys ever want to see it, I'll send it to you. It's pretty
Dude, that's amazing that you have it.
Yeah, they were all telling me, Merch was telling me, tell her she has to do a redo. I'm like, nah, I was too embarrassed to ask for a redo. So yeah, I raised the money. I actually raised 17 grand. And
Wow.
And I ended up having another phone call with the rep from Guinness, and I said, about that 13,000. And the woman I spoke to said, I didn't say it was 13. I said it starts around 13. She said, you guys, if you want something, she really said this. I got it on tape. She said, if you guys want all the bells and whistles, you're looking at something more 20, 25,000.
That's crazy.
And yeah, and I choked, man. And I told her, I go, look, with or without you guys, the whole world's going to see what I did. If you want to give me a certificate, that's cool, but I'm doing it anyway. Right? So she said, yeah, you sound awfully ambitious, good luck, whatever. Wow. So I never got back to them. And I called the TBHS, and I was so hurt over the whole thing. I go, guys, we're going to use all that money, and we're going to fund this whole thing ourselves. And I don't need a certificate. I don't care. And out of the blue, Ripley's called me. And the girl who called me from Ripley's, she had just gotten a job there, and it was her very first assignment. And she called up and she asked me if I was interested. And I kind of went off on the phone because I had had enough at this point. Yeah. And she goes, I'm sorry it happened to you, but we don't want anything. We're going to send 2 reps from Florida. They'll interview you at your shop. We'll watch you pack the truck, and we're going to drive to Salem and stay there with you and give you a certificate. And that's exactly what they did. And they didn't ask for a dime.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm 4 pages in the book too, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're the comic strip.
Yeah.
Yes. And, because I told them, I said, it's amazing. I'm going to be in Ripley's. I go, when I was a kid, I used to love those Ripley comics. And they go, oh, you want to be one? And I'm like, oh, yeah. They got it done.
That's amazing.
That's very cool.
That guy just passed away, the guy that drew my comic.
Oh, sorry to hear.
Yeah, he had just passed away. Yeah. I think he was 62. Yeah. Nice guy. We're friends on Facebook.
Yeah, the kicker to all that is that Ripley's owns Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the parent company to them.
What?
Yeah.
That's
they're the owners. That's why the books look so similar.
I was going to say the books do look similar, but then what you just went through doesn't make any sense.
Nope. 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 And Guinness, they weren't happy about it. The guy that has the record, he started bugging me online. I had to block him because it was borderline harassment. I didn't want to deal with it no more.
Right.
Because when a man steps to me, I look, I'm in a tattoo shop. I right away just want to fight. I don't want to talk on the computer. Right. So this guy out of the blue just started calling me disingenuous, calling me a liar, and I had enough of it. So I blocked the dude. But then he started calling Guinness, and he started messaging all the people at Ripley's too, saying, "You guys are lying. I have the world record." So what Ripley's did to just keep the peace was they changed their website, and their website says unofficially the world's largest Ouija board.
No way.
That's how they compromised.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I hate people so much.
The Ripley's people, they were so good to me, man. Everybody there was so friendly, and they really cared. And they're like, we're not taking this certificate away or nothing. You earned this. We saw it.
Right.
You know? So whatever. If they want me to be in their book one day in Guinness, I'd be more than happy, but I don't care anymore. It's been 5 years. It's a 5-year anniversary. It was October 12th.
Well, I hate to say anything bad about Guinness.
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with Ripley's that's gone back many years. But this is why, for the most part, when you see a new world record, it always has a corporate sponsor. It's like Domino's, the world's largest pizza, or Hershey's is making the world's largest kiss. It's like, well, who else did you think was going to make the world's largest Hershey's kiss?
Right.
Hershey's. It's like Coke made the largest bottle of Coke. Really?
Oh, that's great.
I guess you're supposed to be surprised. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, because you don't really sit and think about it. It was like, oh yeah, I guess nobody else really would be able to make the world's largest bottle of Coke. It's M&M, world's largest M&M. Wow, I didn't expect that. I've been working on.
We were a little nervous about the whole trademark of Ouija when I was doing it, because I was like, well, if I copy this thing line for line, am I going to get some kind of trademark problems? But what if I use the word Ouija and I don't copy it? And they're like, who's this guy think he is? He's inventing his own. Yeah. So I wasn't really sure which way to go, but it had been brought to my attention. Hey, it's already a record, and Hasbro didn't have a problem with it being in Guinness as a record already. So if I were just to do something bigger, I'm not really violating anything. Right. So that's kind of why the whole Zilla thing is there, and the Godzilla thing, because I didn't want anybody to say I copied anything. So I just used it Ouija as the generic term, like Q-tip, Yeah. And I just wanted to make a big one, Yeah.
I like Ouijazilla.
Oh, it's very good.
I like anything Zilla.
Wait till I go 3 times the size. It'll be Ouija Kong.
Mr. Kozik, I assume you have in-depth knowledge on this, but who does control the trademark and the copyright for the Ouija board? Because I see that there's a lot of people that do them without the word Ouija, but the similar design.
Yeah, so the word Ouija is a trademark owned by Hasbro today. And, you can make a talking board, a spirit board, just can't call it Ouija. So that's where they get you. But you'll see a lot of things. You go on Etsy, you type in Ouija, you'll see a whole lot of homemade things. A lot of movies, including the most recent Ouija Shark 2, are using the name in their movie title. So they have not done the best job of kind of protecting that trademark.
Right. Do they own
the same thing?
Board?
What's that?
Do they own the pattern of the board with the sun and the moon and the woman with the flowing whatever?
Yeah, when they do, because they took over from Parker Brothers. They bought all of Parker Brothers assets, and Parker Brothers bought that from the William Fold family, and that's where that design started, was with William Fold. So the classic look most people think of today, Hasbro owns that. You would probably be a better person to answer as to when something goes into public domain. I know Mickey Mouse recently, Steamboat Mickey just went in. So I imagine there's going to be something like that those would go into public domain after the creator passed, after so many years after the creator passed away. But other than that, no, Hasbro owns everything.
Mm.
And then, Mr. Knight, you've had some terrifying experiences with Ouija boards, I've been told.
Not really. I mean, when I was a kid, my mom didn't really want them in the house because she's like a very religious person. But like I have friends who had them and they play with them, but like I never really messed with them too much. I think they're very interesting though. Like the subject matter alone by itself, like the folklore and everything, is very interesting. Like it's usually the basis of most like horror stories and most horror movies, which is really fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting when people decide to do things with the Ouija board, and then they go, something went wrong. I'm like, you decided to do something with the Ouija board. Don't tell me something went wrong.
But it's interesting, though, and back to you, Mr. Kozik. We didn't always think of Ouija boards as terrifying. You know, they were on the cover of Life magazine almost as a romantic item because there was something that a man and woman could play with together before they were married. You know, and touch fingers, which was scandalous back then.
Oh yeah.
So,
if you're lucky, you get a little knee
yeah.
action.
At what point do you feel the public began to think of them as evil? Was it The Exorcist, or was there something even before that?
Well, I mean, in true crime, real bad things happen the entire time. There's a suicide by 1900, the first murder by 1933. It's happening in real life. I think most people using it for, comfort and closure during a war are kind of outweighing any of the negatives that they might hear. I think, it's been in horror movies from the beginning, The Terror from 1928, the first talking horror movie. So those bad things that are influencing people are always there. But again, I think it's still tipped in the other direction where most people are using it to help them find that comfort. But yeah, The Exorcist to me is a big change. I wouldn't say it's specifically that one movie, but it's certainly the tipping point where people's intent using the board really changed. It went to more of a dare game after that. The Ouija board to me, it's all about your intent. Like a car, like a gun, it's what you want to do with it. And after The Exorcist, the Vietnam War ends, the last major U.S. war, the draft. But certainly what a lot of people believe today, superstitions like don't use it alone or always say goodbye on the Ouija board, they pretty much start with The Exorcist.
Got it.
Hey, John, did you ever hear anything, speaking of the Terror, did you ever hear anything about the Terror where people might have blamed the reason why it's lost media on the Ouija board?
No, I have not heard that. That'd be pretty interesting.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Terror, what Rick's talking about, the Terror, that first talking horror movie, it's a lost film. And, the Ouija scene's in there. We have stills from it, but I can't say how long of a scene it is. But pretty interesting if it is lost in any way because the Ouija board was involved.
That'd be
The
cool.
whole film got haunted. That's what it was. But I feel like it went from this thing where people had reverence for it, and then it turned into this thing like you're saying, like people were daring each other for it. And I feel like the more people were daring and doing the other stuff, that's when you started hearing the horror stories.
Right.
Because again, anytime people take something that's supposed to be used a certain way, and then they decided to use it another way, that's when you start hearing the horror stories about, oh, this and this happened, and this happened, because people are treating it as what it's not.
Mm-hmm.
At least from a lot of the research I've done when it comes to Ouija board and stuff, especially when I'm writing horror stories or ghost stories, it's the whole concept that these people are coming in and they're treating it badly, so they get bad results.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, horror movies certainly have a formula that they use. The person that believes in the Ouija board, the person that wants to disrespect it, maybe say something, doesn't believe in it, and using it in a place that they're almost expecting something bad to happen in. They're not using it in a place, middle of a restaurant or something like that, Right. They're using it in a place where they're where the scene is set for something spooky to happen.
Exactly.
So the movies absolutely have it that way. I think, people using the Ouija board now, I meet people, who really want to use the board. And, I'm in Salem where they've come here and it's not to them. It is very much a very serious thing in a lot of ways where they do want to communicate to someone they knew. They've had, all around the city, there's tarot card readings and palmistry and, all these fortune tellers around. And then they come to the museum. They're like, well, wait, I want to try to do this on my own. So I think most people I meet are buying them to actually use them the way they were intended to be used.
Hopefully.
No, I don't. Whoa. Let me set the record straight here. I am perfectly fine with people doing dumb shit with Ouija boards. That's the history of the board. The history is people using it for comfort and then doing dumb shit. So I am perfectly okay. That's the history of what these boards are, and I like every part of it. So by all means, do whatever you want to do with the Ouija board. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But as a historian and someone that loves these, I want to give you a balanced view of the Ouija.
Right. So let me ask you this, and since you do have the Ouija boards that show up at your place from all these other different places, have you seen supernatural activity happen in the museum?
For me personally, nothing happens. I'm sitting next to 600 boards right now in my basement of my house, 2 museums, and I don't see anything. But I see a lot of weird things that I can't explain that other people I see. So, for instance, the TBHS has a board that was donated from the TV show Stranger Things.
Right.
So it's a fairly recent board made in 2017, and we don't know anything about it. When it was donated, they didn't put a return address on the package, and they put a note that basically said, if you find it, forward it to the TBHS. Trust me, you don't want it. And that's about all we know. But what's interesting is, it was a place in the museum where before TikToks, before YouTube videos, where people walked through past all the antique vintage boards and walked right to that board. And they'd be like, I feel something with this board.
Interesting.
And so, it started with a lot of those kind of like people walking to it and telling me that's where they felt something. But then weird stuff in the museum happens with technology, and I don't have an explanation for it. But I mean, everything from, of course, pictures coming out blurry, phones where they have to be shut off and restarted, batteries draining in cameras like it from CNN, and then their stuff not working from both America and Australia. We just Rolex watches stopping in the museum. So weird technology stuff happens fairly often around boards, and that I don't have much of an explanation for. But people coming into a room full of Ouija boards and being nervous, of course, when people run out to get sick, or when they feel pressure on their head, or when they pass out, those are all things that do happen pretty regularly.
Right.
But that obviously we could just explain that they were nervous to be in the room.
Yeah. Because the mind can cause issues.
Sure.
We all know this. I've seen it in people. They can make themselves so nervous or so scared that they can cause issues for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
The human mind is an amazing thing.
So guys, what's your favorite appearance of a Ouija board in a film? For me personally, it was the original 13 Ghosts.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
On Chiller Theater, which Rick, I believe, was on Friday nights, or was it Saturday nights?
I don't remember. I was a little kid. I remember though. I remember when.
And the Ouija board scene in there was my introduction to Ouija boards. But what are your favorite Ouija films?
I mean, 13 Ghosts is a great movie, and that scene is great. The planchette crashes against the wall, and don't tell me when I'm gonna die. She asks that Ouija board, tells the Ouija board not to tell that. But I'm going with Witchboard. That's my favorite. I'm sure Rick's probably gonna pick the same one, but to me, I grew up in that time frame, and Tawny Katane, who everyone knows is from Rolling Around the Hood of the Car, the White Snake video. She stars in it, and really the first starring role for the Ouija. And that's my favorite. I do movie nights at the museum, and that's always my favorite movie when I get a chance to play that. And I think it gets one of the best crowd reactions too. So a lot of people are maybe a little aware of it, that they've heard of it, but haven't actually seen it. and whenever I play it for new people, like it gets a really great reaction. So yeah, Witchboard for me.
Definitely Witchboard. Well, Witchboard all the way. You know, when I first saw that, I wasn't really into Ouija boards at all. It was the 80s. I was one of them kids in high school. You know, I graduated 88. I was all about Satan. Everything was devil, 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 everything. So like, I had every single. First of all, my high school had a section in the library that said Satanism and witchcraft. Could you imagine that nowadays? Like Satanism and witchcraft section in a high school, you know? And I used to. There were certain books in my school that you weren't allowed to check out. You had to just read them in the library and then give them back to the librarian. I would rip all the pages out, you know? So I was always into like devil, evil stuff and witchcraft, right? And then somebody had told me about this thing called the Ouija board, and they told me that witches made them out of used coffin lids. So all of a sudden I was all about it, you know, as soon as I heard that. And this movie Witchboard comes out, and of course I was madly in love with Tony Katane. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, it gave me hope. I was like, there's something I can buy that can bring some kind of spirit into my house that wants to possess just me. And he's going to talk to me all the time. So I really wanted it. You know, I thought it was exciting. I didn't think it was scary at all. It was more hopeful.
I see somebody says Awakenings, 1990 with Robin Williams.
Awakenings.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's not a horror movie, but certainly a good appearance with the Ouija board.
That's a hopeful one.
Yeah,
he's the doctor, and De Niro is the patient.
I gotta say, it's the one I was thinking as well. And it's funny because, you know, I've read and seen and researched enough bad stuff, and you know, and I was like, the first thing that popped into my head was this, and I was like, okay. And then the second thing that popped into my head was, of course, Agatha all the way, because they just did the scene last week with the Ouija board, and it was played for laughs, and at the same time mystical. It was a good. They did a good. I think they did it in a good way. It was a lot of fun.
You know, a lot of people always bring up The Exorcist, right? And they think that's where it all started. But like, I gotta tell you, I'm like ADD as hell, man. I remember seeing The Exorcist when it first came out. I didn't even remember the Ouija scene. I was too focused on all the devil stuff.
Right.
No one remembers the Ouija scene. Even today, when I talk about it at the museum, a lot of people are like, "That's my favorite movie." Are you sure there's a Ouija board in there? Yeah, that's a pretty common thing.
I gotta say, you guys mentioned The Exorcist, and my brain said Ouija board, and then I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a funny Ouija story regarding the Ouija movie, the second one, Origin of Evil.
Origin of Evil.
Yeah.
Nice.
At the premiere of that in New York, they did it in Union Square, and they gave out Ouija boards to everybody that went to the premiere. And as people were leaving the theater at the end, people were throwing the Ouija board back.
Oh my God.
Like, I'm not taking this home.
Right.
And I scooped up a bunch of them and carried them home on the subway.
Wow.
And I remember I got home, and my honey was like, "Really? What are we doing with all these?"
That's
And
great.
just like you with the pink ones in the basement.
Yeah.
I would meet people and be like, "Oh, do you want a Ouija board? I have
have a couple of them.
The nice ones with the light up thing."
I gotta say, it does say a lot about the movie, even though I could swear that movie wasn't that good.
The second one,
Origin of Evil was awesome.
Yeah, Origin's better than the first one for sure.
Maybe I'm just remembering the first one because I didn't like the first one.
The second one, they put a hell of a lot more thought into it.
Yeah,
And it really, I thought it had a good ending and everything. Yeah, I really liked that one.
Nice.
I actually saw that in when I saw it for the first time when I was in Colorado with Merch. He brought us to the movies to go see it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I started in Boston with him opening night.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was great.
But that is a great commercial for it. I think they should have used that as a commercial for the movie. This movie was so scary, they threw away the boards we gave them.
Good advertising.
Let's be honest. If they're real Ouija boards, you know the story. It'll always find its way back to them. You know, you can't throw one away. So
that is my favorite part of the mythos. And I feel like I'm a devil's advocate sometimes. I'm like, I'll be that person. If I saw somebody throw it away, I'd be like,
Yeah.
Well, the Ouija station where they say never ever ever burn a Ouija board.
Right.
What I've been trying to do is, I mean, on the DL, I really haven't been very public about it, but I've been trying to find a sponsor that's willing to buy Ouijazilla. I want to burn the whole thing.
Whoa.
I want to make a giant public event, and I want to have the biggest Ouija board fire you've ever seen, and we'll see what happens.
Now you're trying to make the memes happen.
Well, it's true. It's true. Like once a week, someone comes in to tell me that they had lit the Ouija board on fire, and either it didn't burn or they found it back in their house unburnt later on.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a guy who was camping in Maine, and when he was getting his campsite ready, at the bottom of the ashes in the fire pit, he found a Ouija board that was unburnt.
Wow. Wow, that's something.
Well, yeah, Hasbro better start making some stuff like for houses and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine having a house built out of Ouija boards. It would never burn.
No.
That's the way to go. Yeah.
Right?
What's your house built of? Ouija boards. Have you ever had a fire?
My house
have you
actually
had a
needs
fire?
a new roof, and I was thinking of using pieces of Ouijazilla for it.
Perfect.
Just having that on top of my house.
Ralph, you have
Anyway.
a teenage daughter, I believe. Does she at sleepovers play with Ouija boards? Because it always seemed to be not exclusively a girl thing, but that seemed to be a girl sleepover thing.
Yeah.
But my daughters love them. My one
Rick,
daughter,
I
Samara,
respect your
my
daughter.
youngest. Yeah, my youngest. When she was real little, I mean, she had to be like 4 years old. I was hanging all the Ouija boards in my hallway, rearranging them because I can't look at the same ones all the time. And I'm up there putting some boards in, and my daughter had her little pink one, and she's sitting on the steps, and she goes, "Dad, my board is working real good." And I'm like, "Is it, Samara?" And she goes, "No, Dad, it really is working real good." And I go, "Okay, show me." So she's like, "Ouija?" She's like, and she asked it a question that had to do with like her age or something. And she's like, "Ouija, when am I going to turn 5 or whatever?" And I see her, she's had one eye open and she's counting her fingers. She's doing the math on her hands. And I was like, "That ain't the Ouija counting on your hand, kid."
That's great.
Yeah, and my daughter Winter loves them. She's probably the only one in the family that they work for. Kate is she likes to do the pendulum, and I've seen her do that a lot. But everybody else, we've all tried, and it's just, I think we're just born without souls. It don't work. Don't work for the soulless.
Rick, I have a bizarre pendulum story.
Uh-oh.
I have a crystal one that someone gave me, and I had made a little baby hand to hold it. I don't know. It's this hand, but this isn't the hand. The little baby hand, and I have it mounted on a plaque, so it's just holding the pendulum.
Yeah.
And occasionally, the pendulum will randomly swing. And like, there's not a fan on or anything in the room, and I'll just like
Nice.
out of the corner of my eye, like, and okay.
Cool.
Are you talking
It's a very weird experience when that happens. And,
Yeah.
It's anything, but I don't know what the cause would be.
Mhm.
So it gives one pause.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I never believed in it at all. I always thought it was a bunch of nonsense. I always thought the person who's doing it is the one actually manipulating it. And you guys know where Centralia is, right? In Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's a place that they say Silent Hill was based off of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm such a scavenger. I go everywhere, just to get crap, And one time on Father's Day, my kids were like, "What do you want to do for Father's Day, Dad?" I go, "Let's get in the car. I want to drive to Centralia and I want to look for fossils." Because it's a mountainside, and there's so much stuff dug up there from the coal mines and stuff
Right.
there that you could go there and just take a big piece of slate, hit it with a hammer, and there's all fossils. They're everywhere.
Wow.
So I go, "Let's go sit and we'll look for fossils," And we're on our way up there, and there was an antique store on the way to our trip there, and it was this old building. I pull in, and the lady's probably as old as the house. And I came in and same old spiel. "Do you got any Ouija boards? Do you have any kind of human skulls?" I'm always asking all that crap, right? So she goes, "Ouija boards? not in this house. And I go, I hear that everywhere I go. And she goes, no. She goes, this house is different. And I go, oh, okay, I heard that too. She goes, you want me to prove it to you? I'm like, yes. So we go into this one room. She had this room. It was all toys. And it was dolls piled all the way up against the wall. There's like 8 feet worth of dolls. So she starts moving all the dolls. And behind them was a door. And it was just a bathroom door. It was a bathroom I guess they didn't use anymore. So it was this old woman and her husband owned this house. In the base, the lower part was an antique store. So she goes, come on, open the door and go in there. She goes, I'm not going in with you. And I'm like, okay. So I go in there and I'm like, it's a bathroom. It's cold, but I mean, it could be because, the doors were closed, I don't know. And she goes, do you know what a pendulum is? I said, yeah, my wife loves doing that. So I go, Kate, come in here. And Kate put her hand up and she's doing the pendulum on her hand and she's asking questions and she's getting responses. But I mean, anybody could play that game until I was really paying attention. And I swear to you, I've never seen it again in my life. And we've met a lot of people at paranormal conventions, psychics, empaths, all this stuff, right? Everybody with just superpowers. But I ain't never seen this happen again. Was it defied physics? I watched this pendulum going in one direction. And when she asked something else, it went that way. And I was like, that's physically impossible. Kate, that's not even possible. And she goes, I didn't do it. And it was the one time I saw it and I never saw it again, but it was in that room, in that house.
That's enough for me.
Okay, I'll be going outside now.
Yeah, right? That's crazy.
Those are the moments you wait for as a writer and you go, okay, here we go. Now I got to write about.
Yeah, man, that's something for real. That's crazy.
Right away, I wanted to live there. I'm like, I want this house.
Have you guys experienced any supernatural events in any place you've gone to?
No.
Me once. Oh. I was actually in college, believe it or not, and my roommates were messing around with a Ouija board. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. So I left. I come back. And it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's asleep. So I get into bed. And then I feel the room get really, really cold. And I feel something brush against my arm. But all my roommates are asleep. So I'm like, what the hell? It kind of freaked me out a little bit.
They didn't say goodbye.
That's probably like the most freakiest experience that I've had.
I gotta say,
nice.
all the context in there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I've felt anything or seen anything, but like I said, the weird stuff that happens in the museum, I don't really have an explanation for. Right. And when one of the TBHS directors, Karen, her and I were in England at a paranormal convention there, and there were 5 rooms. We're in a castle. And there was 5 groups in 5 different rooms. So 25 groups total. And each room was doing a different kind of investigating. We had the Ouija room. There was EVP in another room, scrying in another one. And we would ask at the end of the session, how to go for everybody. And some people were getting answers to questions that were asked pretty far, the other side of the room, pretty far away. And we're like, wow, that's pretty weird. You were getting these answers for people there's no way you could have heard them. And then I always use Bob as the example, but they were speaking to Bob in this room. Bob talked to him in the next room, and then people that were never in the same room at the same time, never passed each other in the hallway. At the end of the night, when we asked, how to go, all had very similar, not all, but many of them had some of the similar stories that they had spoke to Bob and had said this or gave him a description of that. And I thought that was pretty interesting because, I think I want to rule out that people aren't influencing it. People aren't, doing those things. And that, again, I didn't have an explanation for other than coincidence.
Okay.
That's a pretty good story. It also kind of showcases, if you wanted some kind of proof, that there's some kind of proof.
Yeah.
Because, you got all these groups, they shouldn't be experiencing anything similar if it's not real. And they are. How about you, Rick?
Bunch of stuff, bunch of crazy things. I don't know which one to tell you that I have time for. I could tell you the funny one that's it's not a cool ghost story. it's a funny ghost story, and it's like embarrassing, but whatever. When my daughters were born, I always wanted to make my house haunted, right? That was my whole reason behind collecting Ouija boards.
Right.
I was buying so many when eBay first started. I had 2 or 3 a day coming in every single day. I never missed a day because Ouija boards were so cheap that I was tattooing and somebody throw me a $50 tip, and I look on eBay for a $50 board to buy it. And so I always felt like they were free because I wasn't using the money I earned. I was using tip money.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just throwing away my tip money and buying Ouija boards every day. My daughter Winter was born in 2002. My daughter Samara was born in 2004, right? Right around when Samara was born in 2004, I had just opened this tattoo shop. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. I was coming home from the shop one day, and Kate, typical mom with babies, she's exhausted, laying on the couch with the 2 kids, and I'm like, babe, I gotta go upstairs. I gotta go at least get some sleep because I was working insane, 80-hour work weeks,
Right.
Yeah.
So I go upstairs, and I had 2 Brazilian Mastiffs. I had 2 200-pound dogs, big ones, and I go upstairs, and there's a spot in our house that where all the weird stuff happens. It's a weird spot in the hallway. It's the entrance to the master bedroom. That's where all kinds of weird stuff has happened. Kate's cat just dropped dead standing in that spot one time. She just and then was dead. But that's where the first time I ever caught weird orb photos and all the other stuff with my daughters. So I go up to the bedroom. I'm all alone, and I'm laying on the bed. I have my back to the door, which is right there. And like when you go over to somebody's house and the dogs are fresh, like a dog will jam their nose like in your crotch, and you go, "Hey, get out of here!" Dogs. Well, I'm laying there, and I swear on my life, I felt like it was one of my dogs, like trying to sniff my butthole, like pushing. And I was like, "Whoa!" And it was as real as can be. And I look, and there's no dog there, and there's nothing there.
Wow.
Right? So I'm like, "Wow, that was weird," because I was not dreaming, man. I'm like, something just touched me, and there's nothing upstairs. So I look around. I'm calling the dogs, Kane, Brandy. They're nowhere around. So I go downstairs, and Kate's laying on the couch, and I go, "You're not going to believe this," because I just thought the dogs were upstairs, and they were downstairs with her. I go, something with like great force pushed on my butt while I was laying on the bed. I'm thinking she's going to start laughing. She turned pale as a ghost, and she goes, "The same thing happened to me." She goes, "I didn't even want to tell you." So I'm like, "Huh?" I go, "What? We got a ghost that's got a butt thing going on?" It's like, that's not even a cool story, right? So we were laughing about it, and we go, "Well, one day we'll tell the kids that there was a ghost that liked tickling our butts." I don't know, right? So I'm at work, and Kate calls me frantically. She goes, "I can't wait till you come home. You're not going to believe the photo I just took of Winter." So my daughter, she's 21 now. She's this little baby laying on the ground, and Kate thought she was cute. She snapped a picture of her sleeping. And I'm going to try to show this to you guys, but I think she caught a picture of our butt ghost. If you can see it there. See?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What?
It's right there.
That's nuts.
That? Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, that's the butt ghost.
Wow.
Not cool, but it's cool.
Right.
You know what it is? You never get what you want. You get something weird.
Right. Right. Like I want something epic. I want Malfader from Witchboard walk around my house.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I got a little orb tickling my butt. But it's something.
That's just funny. Good story.
Yeah. Definitely wasn't expecting that.
Nope.
All right, so I see we're at the hour mark here. Rick, why don't you start and tell the people where they can find you, all the good things to where they can look you up, and if they want to go check you out, or they want to tattoo.
Well, if you want a tattoo, you can come to House of 1,000 Tattoos in Middlesex Borough, New Jersey. You just look up houseof1000tattoos.com. 1000, not 1,000, because it won't come up. Yeah, there you go. It's funny. I met the guy from Creature to Black Lagoon, and I got the opportunity for him to get his autograph.
Right.
And it wasn't until I got in the car and I looked at it, he wrote House of 1,000. And I'm like, damn it. But who cares? It's cool, So yeah, houseof1000tattoos.com. Ouijazilla.com goes to the same website, different pages. I'm vice president of tbhs.org. You can find John and myself and all the other directors and what we're doing on there. We're going to be looking for some volunteers soon to join in with us and do some Ouija fun. So if you guys want to get involved with uncovering and preserving Ouija history, go to tbhs.org. And that's it for me.
There you go. John, go for it.
Yeah. If you come to Salem, Massachusetts, you can come visit me downtown, right on Essex Street. If you can't make it to Salem, I have a brick and mortar store down in Hamden in Baltimore. You can go visit that museum, or of course, SalemWitchboardMuseum.com, and look me up on Facebook or Instagram. That's where I'm most active posting. But yeah, like Rick already said, tbhs.org.
Yes.
Mike Drake, go for it.
Oh, I'm not plugging anything. I'm just here hanging out with you guys.
Yeah,
Mike's just cool.
You have a great Instagram, Mike, and people should check it out.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it's Krampus, New York. KRAMDUSNY.
And I was just thinking before we did the show today, I was like, I got to get Mike back on so we can talk all Krampus, because I know you wrote a book about Krampus.
In December, we'll have to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Awesome.
Because I did a short little piece, Krampus piece because people forget that Christmas is usually you have ghost stories. You know, people forget that there's a supernatural aspect to Christmas.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So for the past couple of Christmases, we've been doing Christmas ghost stories.
Wow.
And we've been having some fun with it.
Very cool.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because I've had the same conversation with people, and you tell them, it was tradition to tell ghost stories. They're like,
Exactly.
really? Never heard a Christmas ghost story? And it's like A Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right?
Ghost story.
Come on.
This one.
And then they kind of, their brain breaks when you tell them that one.
Remember Jacob Marley and, three ghosts and...
I feel like they completely forget that that's a whole ghost story because they've turned it into something else.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the Muppets will do that to you.
There you go. So, folks, when Christmas comes, I'm going to get Mike back on, and we're going to do all these spooky Christmas stuff.
That sounds like fun, though.
And Dennis, you're busy this weekend, aren't you?
Oh my God, yes
Why
I
don't you
am.
tell the people what you're doing? Go for it.
Okay, so my name is Dennis Knight. I'm a comic writer. Sometimes I'm a good comic book writer. I will be at New York Comic Con this weekend, booth 2236. I will be signing Plan 79 from Outer Space #1. So please come. I wrote it, by the way, so hopefully you like it. Come by, say hello, check me out. I'm on Facebook with same name, Dennis Knight. My Instagram is DEE Night Writer. My Twitter is Mr. Night Writer, and my TikTok is Who is Dennis Knight. So come by, check me out, send me a message. Be great to hear from you.
I've known Dennis for a long time because he used to be with Pronto Comics, or
Yes.
still are, yeah.
Babe in the Woods.
And that was Kickstarter before there was a Kickstarter. But, if you guys have Kickstarter questions or funding your comic questions, you should hit up Dennis. He has a lot of good stories.
Hey, Dennis.
Yeah.
Do you know the Joe Kubert School in New Jersey?
I've heard of it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I got kicked out of there.
Really? That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, I didn't even finish my first year.
Wow, yeah, man. The Kubert's a big deal in comic books, man. Like, I
Yeah.
never got it. Like, I always see them like buzzing around Comic Con. I never get a chance to actually
Yeah.
meet them, but really cool people.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I am finally going to be published when We Suck at Comics comes out. It'll be my first time being a published writer.
I might have heard about this book.
Right now, it is at the notify part of the Kickstarter. So go help this Kickstarter out.
Yeah, for sure.
Sign up to get notified. It is a free thing you can do to help out a Kickstarter, because you need the more followers they have, the better place in the algorithm they'll be when the Kickstarter kicks off. So go check out We Suck at Comics. And if you are at New York Comic Con this weekend, go check out Wayward Raven, who are the guys who do We Suck at Comics.
Yeah, they're at 1845, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was at the booth there, hanging out with them, talking all about We Suck at Comics. And
they're a great bunch.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of fun.
Yeah, Mark sent me a message. He said, "Can't wait to see you." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm excited." The only time I see Mark is during Comic Con, so it's like, I know we're gonna grab a beer somewhere, have dinner somewhere, so it's gonna be fun.
My favorite story from Mark and the Wayward Guys is I met him a couple years back in New York Comic Con, and that's when they were doing the free beer.
Yes. It was hot and warm, but it tasted good.
Oh my God, yeah. Before David shut them down.
It was, hey, you can't do that. So we're not selling it. You get a free beer if you buy a comic book. We're not selling the beer. It's like, no, you can't.
Nobody's selling beer here.
Right.
All right, folks. I hope you guys have had a great time tonight, enjoying all the spookiness. John, Mike, Rick, you guys are welcome onto the show anytime. You want to bring up some topic or we'll talk about something, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, we love the spooky here, you know. And it's always a lot of fun to talk about it. So, folks,
thanks for having me on.
Say that again.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. Like I said, you're welcome anytime. Dude, you're cool. Anybody that can geek out, I like having on my show. That's why I like Mike on the show, because he's always going to come up with some great story, and I'm like, oh, here we go. All right, folks. On this show, The Written Writ, what I do is I press the button, and where it stops, nobody knows. Have a good night, folks. Get creative.
Good night.